Part 1. The desert belonged to Rommel by early 1943. The North African desert had become a proving ground for legends. Miles of sand stretched endlessly under a merciless sun, broken only by shattered vehicles, abandoned supply dumps, and the ghosts of battles already fought. The desert was unforgiving, no cover, no mercy, no second chances. And for nearly 2 years, one man had mastered it better than any other. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. British officers whispered his name with a mixture of fear and admiration. German propaganda turned him into a myth. Even his enemies admitted it. Rommel was fast, unpredictable, and brutally efficient. He struck where least expected, vanished before retaliation, and turned retreat into trap after trap. Rommel did not fight the desert. He used it. Speed was his weapon, deception his shield, intelligence his compass. When Allied commanders believed they had him cornered, he slipped through gaps no one thought existed. When supply lines stretched thin, Rommel gambled and often won. By 1942, British morale had cracked more than once under his pressure. And then came the Americans, young, inexperienced, confident to the point of arrogance. Rommel welcomed them. To him, they were amateurs stepping onto a chessboard already mastered by a grandmaster. He had no idea what was coming. Part 2. The arrival of Patton. Lieutenant General George S. Patton Jr. arrived in North Africa like a thunderclap. Where Rommel was quiet, analytical, and inwardly disciplined, Patton was explosive. He wore polished helmets even in combat zones, carried ivory-handled pistols, and spoke of destiny as if it followed him personally. Many Allied officers doubted him. Some mocked him. Others feared he was reckless. But Patton understood one truth better than anyone else in Africa. Rommel was not unbeatable. He was predictable if you knew what to look for. Patton had studied Rommel obsessively. He read German manuals. He examined captured orders. He reconstructed Rommel's past victories move by move. Patton didn't just study Rommel's tactics. He studied Rommel's mind. And what Patton saw was not a fox. It was a man who relied on momentum, on speed and surprise to overwhelm slower thinkers. Rommel struck fast and expected his enemy to react slowly. He pushed hard, assuming his opponent would retreat. Patton planned to do the opposite. Part 3. Kasserine Pass. A lesson in blood the Americans learned the hard way. In February 1943, U.S. forces met Rommel near Kasserine Pass. The result was devastating. German armor tore through American positions. Units collapsed. Equipment was abandoned. Commanders froze. Rommel achieved exactly what he expected. To him, this confirmed everything. The Americans were unready, their officers inexperienced, their discipline soft. Rommel wrote confidently in his reports. He believed the Americans would take months, perhaps years, to become a serious threat. That assumption would cost him dearly, because Kasserine was not the end. It was Patton's beginning. Part 4. Patton takes command after Kasserine. Allied leadership acted fast. Patton was given command of the U.S. the Second Corps. His first order was simple and terrifying. We are going to attack and keep attacking. Patton restored discipline overnight. Helmets fastened, vehicles aligned, salutes enforced, cowardice punished, confidence rebuilt. But Patton didn't just prepare his men physically. He prepared them mentally. He told them they were not inferior to Germans. He told them Rommel was not invincible. He told them fear was the enemy, not the Afrika Korps. And then Patton did something Rommel never expected. He slowed down. Part 5. The trap no one saw. Rommel believed speed won battles in the desert. Patton believed control did. Instead of chasing Rommel's movements, Patton fortified key terrain. He anchored his forces, forced Rommel to reveal his intentions, and waited. When Rommel probed Patton's lines, he found resistance, not panic. When he attempted flanking maneuvers, he encountered layered defenses. Patton anticipated him. Rommel began to notice something unsettling. The Americans were no longer reacting. They were predicting. Patton used false withdrawals, dummy positions, and controlled retreats, not out of weakness, but calculation. Each move was designed to draw Rommel forward, stretch his supply lines, and force him to commit armor prematurely. Rommel believed he was winning ground. In reality, he was walking into exhaustion. Part the 6th. War of Logistics. The desert is not won by courage alone. It is won by fuel, water, and ammunition. Rommel's greatest weakness had always been logistics. German supply lines stretched across the Mediterranean, vulnerable to Allied air and naval power. Every tank advance burned precious fuel that could not easily be replaced. Patton knew this. So instead of rushing to destroy Rommel's tanks, Patton targeted his movement. Air power harassed supply convoys. Artillery struck staging areas. Recon units reported every German shift. Rommel began to feel it. His tanks slowed. His men grew weary. His attacks lost their sharp edge. The Desert Fox was being starved, and Patton was patient enough to let it happen. Part 7. The moment of realization. Rommel was no fool. By late spring 1943, he understood something had changed. This American general was not behaving like the others. Patton did not hesitate. He did not overextend. He did not retreat blindly. He absorbed pressure, then struck with overwhelming force at moments of his choosing. Rommel reportedly told his staff that the Americans were learning too quickly. For the first time in Africa, Rommel faced an opponent who did not fear him, an opponent who respected him but refused to bow. Part 8. Breaking the myth. The final engagements were not dramatic charges or sweeping encirclements. They were controlled, methodical, relentless. Patton pushed when Rommel could not respond. He paused when Rommel tried to provoke rash action. He conserved strength while Rommel burned his. Eventually, the truth became unavoidable. Rommel's advantage initiative was gone. The Desert Fox was reacting, and Patton was leading. Rommel left Africa soon after, ill and frustrated. The legend remained, but it had been cracked, not by brilliance alone, but by discipline, preparation, and understanding the enemy better than he understood himself. Part 9. What Rommel never expected. Rommel never expected an American general to beat him at his own psychological game. He never expected patience instead of panic. He never expected restraint instead of recklessness. He never expected a commander who would deny him speed, his greatest weapon. Patton didn't outfox the Desert Fox by being faster. He outfoxed him by being smarter. Epilogue. Lessons written in Sand. North Africa was not Patton's greatest victory, but it was his most important. It proved the Americans could adapt. It proved legends could fall. And it proved that warfare is not just about daring charges, but about understanding the enemy's expectations and turning them against him. The desert remembered both men, but only one walked away, having rewritten the rules of the battlefield. The arrival of Patton *, Lieutenant General George S. Patton, Jr. did not arrive quietly in North Africa. He arrived with confidence bordering on arrogance, polished helmet, ivory-handled pistols, and a reputation that divided opinions before he spoke a word. To many allied officers, Patton seemed theatrical, to some dangerous, to others unnecessary. To Erwin Rommel, he barely registered at all. Rommel had already defeated British generals with decades of experience. The Americans, he believed, were soldiers still learning how to fight a modern war. Their early failures only reinforced that belief. But Patton was different. While others reacted emotionally to Rommel's reputation, Patton studied it. He read German field manuals, analyzed Rommel's previous campaigns, and traced patterns in every bold maneuver. Patton did not see a mystery, he saw a method. Rommel relied on speed, surprise, and the assumption that his enemy would hesitate. Patton planned to remove all three. He did not intend to outpace the Desert Fox, he intended to outthink him. And in the silence of the African desert, Patton prepared to fight a war Rommel never expected.